everyone, Cyber Eric Gaming here with another gameplay explained video. This is for Marvel Tōkon Fighting Souls. This is from the open beta that happened this weekend. I decided let's play it a little bit, capture some footage and explain what it is. So obviously, first off, what is this? Obviously it's a fighting game. Think of this more as a 1v1 fighting game rather than the Marvel vs. Capcom 2v3, 2v2, 3v3, etc, or Dragon Ball Fighters C. So you're basically going to be fighting, controlling the characters here. For example, here I am using Danger, or at least the AI is using Danger against Iron Man, two mechs characters, and you basically can summon heroes to help you out. There's a vertical element to it, right? And you're basically going to be doing different combos, moving around, until you basically drop the your enemy's health bar to 0, right? Basic standard stuff for a fighting game. I'll go over some of the menus, mechanics, etc for the game, but please like and subscribe. It is appreciated for this video. Alright, so what is it? Here's the main menu. Basically you can select different matches. You can do casual matches and versus. There's also an episode mode, etc. I'll show that later. Obviously this is an open beta, so a lot of the features are not available, right? But you can still go to versus, you can still play casual against other people. There's a lobby system that I'll show later, but basically you're gonna select your different characters here, and there's also assortment of Marvel characters. You got your Iron Mans, your Wolverines, Spider-Man, Storm, and the X-Men, Ghost Rider, and there are odd ones, right? Blade, and a bunch of different things. Once you select your character, you basically select 4 different characters. I'll do as I said. You're basically using one character. You can't switch to the other characters at any point. However, you basically have one health bar for all of them. That's why you think of this more as a 1v1 fighter rather than a 4v4 fighter. Even though, again, you do select 4 characters, you can't switch. You can kind of strategize that kind of stuff. So here's basically one of the first fights that I had. Basically, I'm using Magic, one of my favorite characters in Marvel, and she's pretty cool. She has this like giant sword. I forgot what his name is called. And here I'm fighting Blade. He's got a lot of nice ranged attacks, etc, with the guns and the little blades that he does. And you see me basically summoning different portals, etc, right? Here I am KOing him. And I'm kind of trying to figure this out. Basically, I'm pressing buttons. At this point, this is basically button smashing, but here I am using Danger. Obviously, you have your light, medium, and heavy attack, and I'll explain that in a second. You have your special abilities and special attacks. You also can, again, switch or summon characters. For example, I summoned character there. If I pressed R1, I think, you can basically switch to any assist character that you summon. There's Sony, right? There's a bunch of different fighting game mechanics that, again, I won't go into. There's a lot better experts in the internet than I am at explaining this game and the mechanics. But here I am explaining at least the basics. So here, for example, one of the things I want to also show is like you can also backtrack, right? If you move backwards, you can basically block attacks. That's one of the main things for most fighting games. Mortal Kombat has an actual block button, things like that. But basically, those are basics of a fighting game, a 2D fighting game, as you see here. Alright, so let's go over some of the basics. So here I am basically on the training mode. So for example, here I am moving forward. If I press the square button there, square button is for light attack. I'm playing this on the PlayStation. Here I am using the triangle for the medium attack. And if I press circle, it's basically the heavy attack. If you press some of those buttons multiple times, you do this auto combo. And basically it ends up in one of your special abilities, whether it's a super skill or the ultimate skill. So it's very easy to use your super skills and skills, etc. So you don't have to memorize a huge crazy combo, quarter circle, any other stuff. Just press a couple of buttons, very easy. And I'll show the button layout in a second here. But for example, here I am. You can press the X button to basically just summon another character, and if you summon them, you can just press the I think it was the R1 button to switch to that character. So X is the assist. And you get the different buttons. And by the way, the backwards running animation for Storm is the best I've ever seen in a fighting game. Just her gliding is amazing. So capture that for posterity. So for example, you also have your particular skills, and you also do like the assemble attack. I think it's called Tōkon Assemble, which is basically all 4 characters come in, and your main character does their ultimate super attack, and it looks very flashy, right? And it also does a lot of damage. You cannot stand. Again, very easy to activate. So let's go over some of those commands. So for example, in the menus, basically be able to see the command list for your characters. But let's go over the main buttons first. Obviously, you have your directionals. As I mentioned, you got the light, medium, and heavy attacks. You also have your X, which is the assemble button to assists. You have basically R1 and R2, which is unique and skill and quick skill, and then you got a quick dash and attack. So tag is basically for when you summon an assist, you press the R2 to tag, and you can basically switch to that character that you commanded to assist. For example, R2 is, as we saw, the unique skill attack. So basically, you can do different directions to do that. Super skill is with the R1, R2. And then the ultimate skill is just basically forward R1, R2. Very, very simple to activate these things. And obviously the Tōkon assemble is basically just X, which is the assemble, again, the assist button on R2. So here I am, for example, activating just the super skill, and very simple way to activate it. So let's go over, for example, here I am summoning, and then I'm switching over to Storm. And obviously you can also grab, by the way, you can grab with the medium and heavy at the same time. So there's different grabs that you can here I am using the ability, for example, super skill with Storm, and I'm kind of also showing this off so you can kind of see some of the characters. Here I am using the ultimate skill as she.
Listen to her words and pay heed.
And again, she controls both lightning and ice, etc., etc. Obviously, Storm, her powers, etc., etc. And you can activate the skills differently. For example, you can activate them and actually miss. This isn't just also you can do the auto combo, or you can activate them manually. So, for example, if you're not close enough, you won't be able to hit them.
The goddess speaks through me.
But obviously, some attacks are forward, some attacks are grabs, etc., etc. So, for example, here's Wolverine. Here's just the same feel. Here's the unique attack, the R1 button that he has there. If I do the super skill, he does that little dash here. And if I just press the triangle multiple times, you can really see the inputs on the left side there. I basically it's an auto color. Same thing here. I'm activating just the ultimate skill. And he does a very cool motion where he talks that he's an X-Men rather than an Avenger. I think the audio in this game is amazing. Here I am showcasing Blade. Here's basically his unique attack. Right? Unique attack, etc., etc. Moving around. Here's his quick skill, the R2, and it's basically just a little shot. Here's the light attack. Here's medium, and here's the heavy attack. And obviously, just for you know, if you're jumping around or crouching, you will do different attacks as well. So you have to kind of know your characters, etc., etc. Like a fighting game 101. Alright, so let's look at some of the blades, like the skills. For example, here's super. Very flashy. Blade is very flashy. Very, very cool character to use. Here's his super ultimate.
What? Too late to run. Nothing stops the more monster blade.
Again, very cool. Blade is very nice. So let's change another character. For example, here's Black Panther. I'm not going to show them all, but I wanted to show a couple to show the basics. Right? Light attacks, moving around, medium attack, etc., etc. Here's the heavy, and for example, you're going to have to understand your range. For example, this heavy attack has a pretty good range. Look at me. I'm basically the 3/4 of the distance on the screen, but I can still kind of attack him, so you kind of have to learn your range. That's the super for Black Panther, and different characters will have different skills. It's not just a flashy attack. For example, her ultimate skill activates this. So I was like, what does this do? She's now glowing, obviously. So what does it do? So obviously you can press the pause button, go to your command list, and it can basically read what does the character work. And every character will have different specific hints. For example, this activates a heart-shaped herb state. And it basically affects your skill meter and your blessings. But basically, you can do a super and ultimate attack. She does have that. She just has to activate the shaped curve. So have to learn the character, know what you're doing. It's not just everybody has an attack like that. But obviously, when she has that, she can activate this.
And vibranium against vibranium.
All right, cool. So again, for the last character I kind of wanted to show, for example, again, I won't show them all because it takes too long for a video. But Peni Parker was very interesting. Again, I picked random characters, by the way. Obviously, her forward dash, quick dash animation, amazing. I love this. If I had a video game just for Peni Parker, day one. Take notes, developers. All right. So Peni Parker, one of the things, obviously she's a tank, but she can summon these little like droids and little robots with her unique skills. And it basically makes it very interesting. Obviously, she has other unique skills, etc., and combos like this web slinging thing. She can summon these little robots. She can summon these turrets that type and the enemy characters. She can summon mines that float down in the air and blow you up. So I thought it was a very cool, interesting characters because this is one of those not gimmicky characters, but it's like a Sony character where you're gonna basically have fighting the character, and you'll also be fighting other things that she can summon. So let's look at some of those. Because I thought it was interesting as I was reading the unique skills for her, Peni Parker. So for example, she's got like the gadget launcher, as I mentioned, the R1, and she can summon things like a Razor, Jumping Spider, and you can see them here in the corner. I love this menus, by the way, where it shows you the animation. It doesn't just describe it to you, it shows you what you're doing, so it's cool. However, you don't see any directional buttons on these, so I don't know if these are random or if these are situational. So I tried to figure out how to kind of summon specific ones, and I couldn't kind of figure it out. And again, you can summon different ones, so this will be kind of those characters to figure out. For example, here I am summoning that last one you saw, that big giant spider. That's Peni Parker, just to kind of show basics. And here's her ultimate ability, just because it looks very, very cool.
Ready, Spider?
Command, proceed!
Oh, protect everyone! And sequence! We nailed it!
Alright, that's a KO. Okay, so basically this is when you win, you always have this nice little flashy screen with the characters. Again, the animation and the characters for this art look amazing. Let's go back to the main menu. And let's actually take a look at that episode mode, as I mentioned. So obviously in the open beta, there's a bunch of modes. There's also this little showcase into what the story campaign is going to be. So there's an actual full story. It actually took like 20 minutes to go through, so I'm not going to show it to you per se. But the basis is that there's this character called the Champion, and he's basically challenging you to a fight because he wants people to fight him. And basically he has also this guest character, I don't know her name actually, but she's very OP. She can basically go up planets, so basically they go to Earth, and they basically challenge you guys to be like, hey, we want to challenge the Earth's mightiest heroes to a contest of champions, right? And there's this comic book art style thing.
Thanks, Spider-Man. Tippy Toe and I can handle anything.
For example, that was Squirrel Girl, and obviously you have different characters that basically get invites. Think of this as Smash Brothers Marvel style. They basically get invites, we see team leaders or whatever you want to call it, because again, think of this as a 1v1 fighter. They basically get summoned, and for example here, they mention, they explain why you have a 4v4 in a very simple way.
The champion, you get 4? Are you sure, boss? That really doesn't seem fair.
Alright, there is a little hint of the Fantastic Four in the cutscenes, so I'm actually capturing it here, just for prosperity.
4?
But for the most part, here's the actual intro of the game, so I'm going to be quiet so you guys can see it. Alright, that was a nice intro. So again, if I continue going over the episode mode, you have fights like this here, and for example, you'll see that it's just Spider-Man vs. Green Goblin here. There are no assist characters here. and it gives you some additional battle missions to do. This is part of the single player episode campaign, but for the most part you're going to be running around, you're going to be doing a different set of fights, right? In this case against being Goblin, who has taken your letter ticket, and you're obviously going to have this very nice motion comic story modes, and they're fully voiced, and they can be long, by the way. This one took like 20 minutes, and this is actually a very cute, fun one. Take a look.
Let's go with Amazing Guardians.
And done.
Again, having Peni Parker and Miss Marvel on the same team is gold. So can more campaigns. By the way, during the battle stages, you can do attacks that'll flip you from one background to another, if you will. Similar to the Blast Blue franchise, obviously this is a known Arc Systems trope, if you will, which is always the person. And again, yeah, you're gonna have different mechanics, you have different things, you have characters that'll fly. For example, another thing that the open beta had was this lobby system. And this is basically one of those, like, you know, chibi, whatever you want to call them, little characters. You can actually change your avatars with particular things. For example, obviously I'm gonna be Magic. And you got this little battle arcadia or arcade. And you got different arcade cabinets. This is very typical for, like, if you played ever Street Fighter 6 or anything like that. And you can either spectate people, do a line, do a lobby for it. And they actually have this nice little stick here in the middle that you can actually play around with. And obviously there's like a giant arenas. There's multiple areas related to the different Marvel IPs. For example, I forgot his name, Heimdall. Here's the Rainbow Bridge from the Thor franchise. And you can actually walk it all the way down. I skipped all that. And you can actually meet Odin. And then you're gonna have all these little versions of the chibi characters. For example, you can go to the X Mansion. You can see actually Colossus here having a snack with his sister. You can actually see Psylocke here, which is clearly my favorite character. When I saw her, I basically geeked out. I wanted to ask her for the autograph. And there's obviously other X-Men around, so I kind of wanted to literally showcase them. You can see Sentinel on the top. You can see Beast here when he was a good guy. He's his young angel, so it's kind of getting weird now. Obviously Gambit and Rogue. And you can even see Kurt in the background there. And every time you get close, they actually will give you a nice high five. Again, very cool thing. Obviously, you can also spectate fights. For example, here I am spectating a fight from one of those random lobbies, from an arcade, and basically just fight and going around. And again, yeah, you get to basically have to learn how to use the different characters. For example, on different mechanics. So you have a health bar that is a one shared health bar. You obviously have different assists. So for example, if you see underneath the health bar the little green bars, for example, the Magneto team has 3, Ghost Rider has 1. Those are your assist gauge, if you will. And there's obviously a skill gauge at the bottom, which is basically says 150, for example, for Magneto there. Ghost Rider has 28, and you basically build those up by doing different actions. For example, here they are doing an assemble attack, and the very cool Magneto ultimate attack, where he summons a giant Sentinel head and slams it on you. Just, video game, comic book epic here. But yeah, that's basically mostly it for Marvel Tōkon. It seems like an extremely competitive and very fun game. It's gorgeous to look at, but think of it as a 1v1 fighter where you have assists and you can assist characters and you can actually switch to them. So it's both a 4v4 but mostly a 1v1. You're basically selecting a character to fight against, but you can switch to the other characters. So it's gonna be a weird mechanics. I can't wait to watch this in like professional settings and see how the professionals play it. By the way, here's some lag there because obviously I'm spectating these players, this fight, and you can actually get some lag. Again, this was an open beta for them to test some of the mechanics and some of the network code, and obviously the game comes out in just a few weeks. So again, I'm looking forward to it. It looks like a lot of fun, and it looks like an extremely competitive fighting game. But with that, that's it for this gameplay explained video. I would like to thank everybody for watching. Doom is watching you, so please like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, this was a lot of fun to do. And as always, have a good one, everyone.